fantastic turnout this evening. Thank you very much for coming along. We're living in really, really interesting times. I started doing talks about 2007, and I started off just going down the local boozer on a Friday night and basically telling people about things like 9/11 and the fraudulent banking system. Of course, all the locals thought I was completely mad, and you know, they were just having a good Friday night. But after a while, people started turning up that were actually quite interested in what I had to say, and I started making contact with people all over well, Dorset initially, and then all over the country. And then this year, you know, what 4 or 5 years later, I've actually been doing talks all around the country, been doing a lot of festivals, and Ceylon and myself have actually been doing a little bit of TV stuff as well. So it's almost like really so many people are waking up. And I go around the country and I see sort of groups like this coming out, well, you know, when we could all be staying at home quite happily. So for me, these are really, really exciting times. So yeah, I'm not an expert on anything. I've just had a little bit of experience from being in debt myself. I ended up in quite a bit of debt at one point, and just like a lot of people, I was actually feeling really, really intimidated and frightened. Because, you know, these people kept phoning me up. At the time, I just got married and my wife had a business, and so I was like a little bit, you know, I was actually cracking myself, to be honest. But then, you know, I've had a bit of some sort of awakening, call it spiritual, I don't know. But I'd sort of woken up to a lot of stuff. And I came across a book by, and I know James has read this book as well, by Mary Elizabeth Croft. And it sort of, I started reading this and I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is somebody with a, you know, that seems to have a lot of the answers. And I read the book, and there's links to the book on the front of the website, because I do appreciate the work that she did. And she basically gave us an idea how to deal with banks, but there was no template letters. And I thought, well, there could be something on Google. This was 2007, and this was before a lot of the big truth groups had got together. So what I did, I sort of read her book twice and then went through it a third time making notes, and I sort of pulled some letters together, and then I put up a really basic website and started putting the letters up there. And it's just grown and grown to the point now where I think we've got over 10,000 sort of active members on the website, and we're getting about 50 people signing up a day. So it's really, really exciting. But all I'm doing is giving you my view. So what I would say is don't believe anything I say. Okay? Don't believe anything anyone says. Please, if you've got any questions, if it's a really short one, just put your hand up, and if I've got a time, but it tends to slow me down. And what we're going to do is, at the end, Ceylon and myself will be taking questions. So we'll open up the floor, and then we'll sort of like have a bit of a sort of question and answer. And the other thing I say, I quote Jordan Maxwell, when he says, I'm not an authority on anything, because at least I'm smart enough to know how much I don't know. So I'm sure there's people in the room here that have had, you know, have got a lot more specific knowledge. What I do, I sort of do get out of debt for dummies, and you know, I'll give you a little bit of an idea of what I think this whole fraudulent system's about. But what I do try and do is keep it really simple. Okay, so what I've always done is I sort of started likening it to a game of Monopoly. So there we go. Monopoly is still the world's #1 board game. I can't believe it, but it is for some reason. I always prefer Twister myself, you know, something where you actually get on the board and wriggle around, but a lot of people still like Monopoly. I think it's this, because we've been grown up with this sort of, you know, capitalist system where we're always striving for more money, and you know, it's ingrained even so much that you have a game where you sort of like make loads of money out of other people. It's crazy. But what was interesting is, the more I looked into the game of Monopoly, the more I realised it was actually like real life. And so what I did, I went through the sort of game of Monopoly and realised that you know, the more things I looked at, you know, the more similarities with real life there were. So, and also, what we want to do is, Ceylon's going to be helping you with how to win by understanding the rules. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just give you a sort of like a little bit of an overview, but then Ceylon's going to give you a little bit more tools that we've got on the website for actually helping people dealing with debt. Okay, first thing to realise is that just like Monopoly, it's just a game. Okay, now, as I said, when I first started playing this game, I was quite nervous, but I realised that it is just a game, because the whole of life is just a game. You realise that this reality is, I've just done a Buddhist meditation course, and the Buddha's saying it's all illusion. And when you actually let go and acceptance and work with a bit of acceptance, then things tend to flow. So the most important thing is letting go of the, not getting too frightened by it. Now you've got to realise that their plan, and we're seeing this, when I'm talking about them, I'm not just talking about the government, because the governments work with the banks, if you've not noticed. Anyone not noticed that? Yeah, okay. I realise that I'm preaching to converted here, but when you see what's going on in Greece and Italy and every single Western nation, it's crazy. But you've got to realise their plan is to take you for every penny you've got, and so what we're doing is coming up with remedies to stop them doing that, because basically they've got one, their most powerful weapon that they've got. What is it? Any guesses? Emotional. What is it? Fear. Yeah, that's the one thing that they've got. Fear, because it's fear of getting it, of not paying them back. It's fear of losing the credit score and all this sort of stuff, and fear of bailiffs. And a lot of people live with that fear, and they live with a constant fear of not having enough money or worrying about their pensions. And I talk to, I go out and do talks, as I'm doing now, and talk about the fact that this whole system, I think, sooner or later, it's going to collapse. It has to. I'll be going on more into that. But I get people coming up and speak to me afterwards saying, well, actually, I've got quite a bit of money in the bank. And they're not the ones that are sort of like the most, they're the ones that are worried the most because they've got something to lose. Those people without anything aren't too worried, including myself actually, really aren't worried about it. So you've got to remember, the first thing, it's just a game. The other thing is that you actually need Monopoly. It's not actually you playing the game, is it? I mean, you're making the decisions, but you've actually got a little token running around the board, haven't you? Because my favourite is a racing car. Anyone else got a favourite token they're playing with Monopoly?
Top hat.
Top hat, yeah. You got a battleship. I think you've got a few new ones these days, but I think last time I played Monopoly was about 30 years ago, so it was all like the really old icons. But you need a token to play the game. Now you're thinking, well, I'm sure a lot of people here know what the token is when you're actually playing the game. But if anyone's not sure, if anyone looks at their credit card or debit card, and if you like, I've only got the one card now, a debit card, because I'm not allowed anymore. I've only got the little co-op basic account, but it's pretty good. Unfortunately, I lost my card the other day. I deactivated this one, and they cancelled it. And 5 minutes later, I found it, and of course, I can't use it, which is a bit scary. But you'll always notice the name is in uppercase. Has anyone got a credit card or a debit card where you haven't got the name in uppercase? That means it's all capital letters. God, there's 50 quid for anyone that's got a credit card or a debit card in title case. Now, if you look at my co-op card, this is my little, my little loyalty card. That's actually got my name in title case. That's the first letter capitalised, and the rest in lowercase. But you always find that with credit cards, debit cards, name always in capital letters. Look at the birth certificate as well. Now, there's a reason for that. I mean, look at there. We've got a credit card, and to give you a clue, if you look on the back of your credit card or debit card, it always says something to the effect of authorised signature. And mine does on this one. It says it below it on this one. Authorised signature. Well, My question is, who are you authorising? Now, I'm sure there's a few people here that, you know, come across as like the straw man principle, but you can get a clue here from Black's Law Dictionary, where, and this is a dictionary that's been used for many years, although it's American, American uses pretty well the same laws effectively as we do, obviously not exactly the same laws, but every statute they have, we have an equivalent, certainly with the banking things. But capitis diminutio maxima is defined meaning a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalizations. And it's interesting, the word capital, we use the word capital, capital letters, and we also use the word capital for money. You know, any sort of, it's very interesting. Has anyone come across Jordan Maxwell? Yeah, there's a few of you. As I'm preaching to converted here. If you want to look into the words around, you know, I sometimes do a talk where I just do a lot of these sort of work that he's done and look at some of the words, because the words are remarkable. But basically, capitis diminutio maxima, this occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage, when he became a slave. It swept away all his rights of citizenships and all his family rights. And that goes back to Roman times. Now, it's very interesting that when a child is born, you always have a birth, you know, the child is always registered. And now registered means to hand title to the crown. And of course, my understanding is the crown isn't Queen Elizabeth. My understanding is the crown is the City of London, the financial centre. So effectively what you're doing, you're handing your title, you know, your name is actually registered and owned by the crown, which is basically the banking system. Okay, so yeah, so that's your token. Now when you realise that you are not your capitalised name, or you're not your name with your title in front, even with Mr, Mrs or Ms, okay, that is title. Title means ownership, title to goods. That's why we have a title, because somebody's already owning our name. Okay, there's plenty of this on there's a great little video you'll see on YouTube called Meet Your Straw Man, and it explains it beautifully. But once you realise that they create this, it's effectively a fictitious entity, like a company, or a corporation if you like, that they create with the birth certificate. There's a whole load of information on the internet, so I haven't really got time to go into that because I want to cover a lot of sort of aspects of it. So, but yeah, it's fascinating. And you also, just as an aside, you realise up until the age of 7, a child, and they don't use this term so much now, but do you remember you used to see Master so-and-so? And this is all to do with Admiralty law, because effectively, you know, a child up to the age of 7 is his own master, effectively, because you know it's to do with marine salvage law, and it gets complex, but it's fascinating. And they then become Mr. or, you know, female become Mrs., Miss, whatever, because, you know, that is your title. It's been taken away. The other thing, of course, is in Monopoly, the currency is just totally worthless paper. So, what's the difference with the current system that we've got? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? And of course, you know, you see here Ben Bernanke there printing off a whole load of Federal Reserve notes. In America, it's a lot easier to see what's going on. Anyone that's looked into the history of the Federal Reserve, it's really clear and simple to see when it got hijacked. Whereas with the Bank of England, it's a little bit more difficult because there's a lot more smoke and mirrors and history involved. So, but the Federal Reserve is not federal, and they have no reserves. Any more than the Bank of England isn't anything to do with the government. It's a private institution, and they have no reserves. So, and what's very interesting is these days, and somebody asked me if I actually photoshopped this because they didn't believe it. But no, this is straight up. They've now got electronic monopoly for, you know, just to get your kids hooked on plastic before they even start handling real money. I mean, it's unbelievable, because of course, you know, you say, oh, the money is all worthless paper. Well, now all they do, they got on a computer and they want to create a bond for, you know, $1 billion or 10 billion or whatever. They got on a computer, you know, they print out a bond, yeah, and then they create 10 billion on a computer screen. That's how they do it. There's nothing of value. And you've got to realise that money was never supposed to be a commodity in itself. It's basically our labour. It's our wealth. This is our, you know, if somebody digs gold out of the ground, the fact is that they've got to dig it out of the ground makes it valuable. If it was, you know, if you could pick it off trees, they'd be a lot less valuable, you know. So it's the fact that this is our wealth that the banks are stealing from us, basically. And the other interesting thing in monopoly is the bank never goes broke. Now, I actually had to do a little bit of research into the rules of monopoly for this talk, and I was reading it, and I thought, I can't believe this, because it's just after the sort of like first lot of bailouts, I think it's 2007, and it said, if in monopoly, this is out of the rules of monopoly, it says, if the bank runs out of money, the banker may issue as much as needed by writing on ordinary paper. So this is true. This is incredible. If you're ever playing Monopoly and the banker temporarily runs out of money, what you do, you get a bit of paper, you write 50, 100, 10, whatever you need, and you use them until the bank regains the money. And I thought, this is just too much like real life, isn't it? Can you believe these corporations make horrendous profits? But the little ones at the bottom of the food chain, when they do, you know, when they go sort of arse up, who bails them out? We do. This is our money bailing out these corrupt institutions as if we've got loads of money. You know, it's basically another way of stealing our wealth from us. I really think that. And then we've got a, you know, great little cartoon. Yeah, what do you mean you need a bailout? You know, it's crazy, crazy. So you've got to remember, their plan is to take you for every penny you've got, and your plan is to stop them. Okay? And as with Monopoly, you're obviously going to stand a lot better chance of winning the game if you understand the rules. Okay? And of course, being in debt is one of the consequences of playing this game. Which is why, pretty well, every company, every individual, and those people that say, I haven't got any debts, I'm sorry, the government will not agree with you there, because I think we're up to, I can't remember, I know that the EU is 16 trillion euros in debt. I think the UK, I'm going to come on to the UK debt in a second. But anyway, Ceylon's going to give you some of the, you know, in the second half, after we've had a cup of tea, Ceylon's going to give you some ideas on how to actually remedy this. So, but the important thing at all times is to remember it is just a game. Excuse me. And what's interesting is the website's been quite successful, and it's actually upset a few people because, and this was actually in 2009. This was 2 years ago, and suddenly I got a phone call from my my techie guy that looks after the website, and he said, "Have you looked at the Guardian? Have you read the Guardian?" I said, "I don't buy the Guardian." He said, "Look on the website." And so I had a look on the website, and actually the Society of Debt Collectors had got together, as they do, and they have like an annual general meeting, and they all get together, and they think of more ways they can steal money from us without a contract. And what they did, they decided there were 5 websites they wanted removed from the internet. And they didn't have any idea how they were going to do this, but they decided that there were going to be 5 websites, and one of them, let's see if I can, oh, I'm pressing the wrong button here. One of them, you can just see that, there was a Consumer Action Group, Blagger.com, Penalty Charges Forum, getoutofdebtfree.org, down at the bottom. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to try and take my website down.